Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for a brief but important book haul.
Very important book haul.
Very important. The book haul of Coming Attractions.
Coming Attractions.
Yeah.
So a little bit of TBR, a little bit of a book haul.
A little bit of a preview of what I hope to be a very transformative experience for both the channel and the BookTube community at large.
You always make it sound so nice. So
Grandiose.
Grandiose.
It is a mental disorder.
Because you're trying to kill Dalton, but that's fine. That's
Delusions.
okay. That's all right.
Delusions of grandeur and delusions of owning a Dalton as a person.
Fair enough. So we do have some books here. So
Yep.
let's talk about a few books that we are picking up that we're going to be reading very soon. What do you want to start with?
What do you got first?
I got this big green one here.
Okay,
Let's talk about this big green one.
This is Shirley Jackson, let me tell you. New stories, essays, and other writings. We're going to have a lot of Shirley Jackson coming up on the channel in the coming months. And this is a bit of a preview to that. Now, when we went, the original price on this is $30, as this is a hardcover, but these were on clearance at the Barnes & Noble, and the paperback was in the store for, what, $17? I think it was?
yeah.
Yeah, $17, and this is still on clearance downstairs. What kind of fool? Now, if you're not familiar with Shirley Jackson, you should be. And just for example, this is blurbed by Joyce Carol Oates, Neil Gaiman, A.M. Holmes. Those are big names.
Absolutely.
Those are big names. And Shirley Jackson, as Dalton has astutely pointed out on the channel before, has influenced everyone.
Yes. She was a huge influence for Stephen King's writing. We did a little bit of reading on some Shirley Jackson. We've been doing some reviewing on Shirley Jackson. A lot of her horror genre has really influenced what is the modern horror genre. Neil Gaiman takes from her, Stephen King takes from her, but not a lot of people know Shirley Jackson.
In fact, if you pick up Danse Macabre by Stephen King, it is difficult to come away from that experience without knowing how much Stephen King values the Shirley Jackson experience. So, just where's the table of contents here? Surely
Non-existent. That's
Non-existent?
why it's on sale.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Contents. This has tons of stuff in it. 400 pages worth. And, you know, I am only familiar with one Shirley Jackson novel and a few of her short stories. So I am excited to get into all things Shirley Jackson.
Okay. Well, speaking of Shirley Jackson,
Yes.
should we just segue right into some more Shirley Jackson? We have always lived in the castle. Shirley Jackson, this is one that I am completely unfamiliar with. It seems to be like, for the most part, everyone seems to know The Haunting of Hill House, or The Haunting, whatever. It's got a bit of a claim to it, especially with the movies that have been coming out called The Haunting.
Right.
But this is one that I have no idea what it's even about, to be honest with you. Have you read this one before?
I have not, and I am not very familiar with the novel. The only thing that I really, well, I mean, obviously I've seen it 1,000 times, I've just never read it. But the thing with which I am most impressed about this novel, having not read it, is the fact that anytime I mention Shirley Jackson, people are very positive to bring up We Have Always Lived in the Castle.
Okay.
This has come recommended to me, I would say, in the neighborhood of 20 times.
Okay.
So I am excited to get there.
I will attempt to read this little blurb here, give a hint about what it's about, but it is written in, like, cursive handwriting and wonky, so, like, excuse me if I screw it up. My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I'm 18 years old, and I live with my sister Constance. I've often thought, with any luck at all, I could have been a werewolf, because the two middle fingers on both my hand are the same length, but I have had to be content with what I had. I dislike washing myself, and dogs, and noise. I like my sister Constance, and Richard Plantagen, I can't really read that, and Amanita. I assume that's some type of mushroom, because there is a mushroom here. Scientific name, the Death Cup mushroom. Everyone else in my family is dead. So we're reading about a 18-year-old girl who wants to be a werewolf who likes mushrooms. Sounds up my alley.
Doesn't sound at all like Twilight.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But again, this is an author with which we are both very familiar, having read The Lottery several times as college students.
Yes.
Speaking of authors with which we are familiar, but we are not familiar with the medium we are moving into, Charles Bukowski, Post Office. Bukowski's, every time we do a Bukowski poem on the channel, someone mentions either this or Ham on Rye.
Yeah, Ham on Rye I think's the bigger of the two, but I think this was like his experience, honestly, working at a post office, wasn't it?
Right. Which both of us have worked retail, which I can't say is a similar experience, but it's definitely a place where you're put in touch with people, right?
Fair. I'd like to point out that the dedication page, this is presented as a work of fiction and dedicated to nobody. And the first line of the first chapter, the first page of the novel, it began as a mistake. So I'm excited about this. We talked a little bit about like how we're going to do this one here because like we've done a lot of Bukowski poems. We're both huge fans of Bukowski's poetry, but we've never read his novels. So this is either going to be like a game changer and it's just going to blow me out of the water and I'm going to fall in love even more with Bukowski, or I'll have a reason to cool my jets a little bit and be like, all right, back off. Yeah. Back off the Bukowski train.
So it's a bit of a confusing experience because when we were doing On the Road by Kerouac, everyone kept mentioning this and Ham on Rye.
Okay.
And how the novels On the Road reminds me so much of Post Office. On the Road reminds me so much of Ham on Rye. Have you ever read any other Kerouac? You like Bukowski. Have you ever read On the Road? You know, and it's one of those things that keeps popping back and forth between all of these videos.
If this has like the same spirit and concept of On the Road, but executed with Bukowski's flair, I will fall in love with this. And I will rant about it forever. But if this is Kerouac again, I'm going to cry myself to sleep at night more so than I already do.
Yeah, and why?
I don't like Kerouac. I don't like On the Road.
Why?
I don't like books about roads. We've talked about this.
Right. But in actuality, that's not true.
I wanted to read On the Road for sure. Because,
we both did.
Yeah. In concept, it sounds gorgeous to me. Everything that I want in a novel, it's about a man who's just wandering. He's getting away from basically the reality of life, cutting it on his own. Yeah, very hipster-esque.
The concept sounded wonderful to you.
Yes.
I've always wanted to get into Kerouac because of the person he was, the things I've known about Kerouac.
But then we sat and read it.
Yeah.
And it was grueling.
And that's the weird part, is normally one of us likes something, the other hates it, or we can both sort of agree that I can see something in there.
There's worth.
We both absolutely just hated the novel and didn't even like talking about it. So hopefully this is not an experience akin to that.
Well, the legend with On the Road is, he sat down, he started writing, and it became a giant scroll because he just never stopped. He just kept going. And that's honestly how it reads. It just feels like a guy rambling with no sense of direction. And it's bad.
It sounds like it reads like someone that was so hopped up on cocaine they never heard a bad idea in their life.
I like that kind of person, though. I think I'd like that kind of novel. But I don't know, man. It just wasn't for me. So I'm hoping Bukowski's going to do us different here. I've got a lot of faith in him because the man doesn't cut a bad poem. I'm hoping he can...
I've never read a bad Bukowski, but I've read some Bukowski that was like, I
wanted some more.
I never had to read this poem.
Okay.
So hopefully there's something in here.
Hopefully.
I'm looking forward to it, though.
Me too. Absolutely.
Finally, our last book of the haul.
Heavy lifting.
You wanna go ahead and introduce this one?
You just want me to say the name because I'll mess it up.
I sure do.
Okay.
And I want you to say the name so I don't have to mess it up. And then I can make fun of you for messing it up.
I know. This is winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, winner of the Man Booker Prize, The Remains of the Day. This is by, I assume it's Kazuo Ishiguro?
I would imagine it's Katsuro.
Katsuro Ishiguro?
Or Katsuo.
I can get Ishiguro, I'm pretty sure on that one. I'll feel confident about that. But this is a kind of on a whim novel, actually.
Yeah, we were just sort of walking through the Barnes & Noble to get these other books and saw this one. I've seen this author floating around BookTube. I don't know if I've ever seen this novel, but all of the novels from this author that were on the shelf, the covers were sort of the same.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you if it was this novel that I have seen talked about or not. One of the strange quirks of BookTube is I still don't watch reviews if I've not read the novel.
Okay.
And that's sort of why a lot of reviews don't go over quite as large as other things on the BookTube platform.
Fair.
Right? That's why a lot of, book hauls are very popular.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what to expect here. Do you want to read the blurb on the back?
Sure, from the back. The Remains of the Day is a profoundly compelling portrait of a perfect English butler and of his fading insular world in post-war England. At the end of his 3 decades of service at Darlington Hall, Stevens embarks on a country drive, during which he looks back over his career to reassure himself that he has served humanity by serving a great gentleman. But lurking in his memory are doubts about the true nature of Lord Darlington's greatness, and graver doubts about his own faith in the man he served. It's a story about nothing. And I love a story about nothing.
If we're talking about blurbs, this is blurbed by Salman Rushdie, and it is blurbed as being brilliant, a story both beautiful and cruel. And if someone who has had a fatwa on his head for so long and wrote a novel called Satanic Verses is willing to call something beautiful and cruel, I am excited for it.
Okay.
Have you ever read any Rushdie?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. We should get there as well on the channel.
We should. I would like to hope that a man who is the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, which this book wins the Man Booker Prize, this has got some chops behind it. And it's going to be good. Hopefully
we don't have another on-the-road experience where something has been, looks good from the outside, but is not on the inside. And I don't want any remarks in the comments section about how great On the Road was and how we're wrong and how we're just stupid and we just don't get it because we're stupid and we're idiots and we don't understand On the Road.
I will say, though, this is a good change of pace for us.
Yeah,
we usually do a lot of classic novels here. I mean, we've got Bukowski, we've got Shirley Jackson. These are both authors from well before our time. But this is something that's very modern, something that's very new, and something that has won a lot of literary awards very recently. This is copyright 1988. So a little closer to our generation.
I was born by then.
You were born by then because you're old as fuck. But anyway, I'm excited. It sounds good. Like I said, it sounds like a good story about nothing. Sounds like the man's going to have a bit of a crisis, an internal crisis. Sounds up my alley.
Don't insult me and then go on a rant, okay?
Well, because if I go on a rant, like I can segue away from my insult and you'll just forget about it.
No one loves you.
I know.
I just want you to remember that.
I cry myself to sleep at night.
So that has been our book haul. It has been a while coming. We don't do many book hauls on the channel, but we mainly just haul books that we're going to read, and that is exactly what we've got here. We plan to read all of these in the coming months before the turn of the new year. We'll say that. And Shirley Jackson is always welcome on the channel. So
I'm sure she'll probably trickle her way in throughout the months. When we're like, what are we going to read this month? Shirley Jackson.
Let's do some of this.
Let's do some Shirley Jackson.
I don't know.
But I think we got some good quality here. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for what's to come the next couple months, to be honest with you.
Without fail, whenever I do the Dalton, you go into the Dalton voice.
God damn
you
it.
did it again.
I'm done. I don't know why I even talk on BookTube anymore. I should just sit here and smile. Anyway.
You're pretty that way.
You want to end us here?
If you enjoy this sort of thing, we would appreciate it if you hit the like button. It really helps us out here on the channel. If you are finding us for the first time, or if you are finding us for some other number of times and you have not yet subscribed, please do so, because you don't want to look away. It's like a car wreck. And come back next time. One thing I didn't